Welcome to City Week. I'm Phillip Sledge, your host today. We got a very special guest. Kent Criddle will be joining us today, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back to City Week. I'm your host, Phillip Sledge, filling in for Alton West. Alton is out sick. Alton, hurry up and get feeling better because I belong behind the camera instead of in front of the camera. Today we have a special guest, Kent Criddle. Kent.
Hi.
Good having you here today. Kent is the son of Mike Criddle. Mike works for the City of LaGrange. He's the Director of Marketing, the Director of Industrial Development, Director of Purchasing, Director of LGTV. So, you know, Mike wears several hats, and a lot of times we like to showcase employees and what they've done. But today, Kent has done something that a lot of people really don't get a chance to do. Kent went and walked the entire Appalachian Trail. Kent, where does it start and where does it end? That's the big question. And how many miles is it?
Well, the Appalachian Trail, I think it was created in 1937. It is one continuous footpath running from Springer Mountain, Georgia, which is just a little bit above Atlanta, all the way to the middle of Maine, to Mount Katahdin in Baxter State Park. And the total length of the trail this year is 2,186 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And how long did it take you to do it?
It took me a little over 6 months, which is pretty standard. Average is between 5 and 7 months. So I wanted to hit it right there in the middle and get it done in about 6 months.
Now, you said that it started in the mountains of Georgia, so,
Yes,
you know, I visualize mountains. You're up kind of high, so did you have to start up high, walk down, and get into the valleys, and then go back up mountains again, or?
The AAT, it's kind of unique in this regard. It pretty much runs the ridges of the entire Appalachian mountain range. So that means that, honestly, whatever the biggest mountain that you can see is the one that you're going up. And you're going to go pretty much up the ridge and then back down into the valley and then back up the mountain again, the next mountain. So you're doing a lot of climbing and a lot of descending. There's not a whole lot of flat on the AT, and it's not very gradual either. It's very abrupt changes because it follows the terrain. It follows the natural landscape of the mountain, which was the intention. It was supposed to go over all the summits and see, you know, it's basically a summit trail. So
did you ever have to get the rope out and do any rock climbing while you was there, or?
No, nothing quite like that. It did get pretty close to that in the New England area, particularly in New Hampshire and Maine. There were several parts of the trail that you're putting your trekking poles away, your hiking sticks away, and you're pulling yourself up on trees and rocks and lowering yourself down kind of in a similar fashion. But no, not quite rock climbing, thank goodness, although I felt like I needed some rope at some times.
Now, how dangerous is this trail? And let's talk about the different dangers that's out on the trail.
Okay.
First danger that comes to my mind is snakes.
I did see quite a bit of snakes, particularly in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. I don't know why. It might have been the time of year. By the time I got up to Pennsylvania, it was kind of hot. We were in the middle of the summer by then, so the snakes were out a little bit more. And Pennsylvania's home to, I think, 3 or 4 different types of rattlesnakes alone. And I saw a few rattlesnakes. Overall, though, they don't really mess with you too much. And most of the snakes I saw were harmless. I probably saw 3 dozen snakes or so throughout the 6-month period, but most of them were just black snakes or garter snakes and stuff like that. I saw a few rattlesnakes and stuff like that, but you just gotta be careful, be alert, and it's hard sometimes because you're walking 10 hours a day, almost every single day, so it's hard to pay attention all the time, and you have your headphones in and stuff like that. But just as long as you're paying attention, you can see them before they see you, or I'd like to think so.
What about other dangers such as bears or mountain lions or animals such as that? I mean, did you ever come across anything like that? Or
I saw a few bears, but honestly, they're not quite as dangerous as people think they are. As long as you're being safe, not sleeping with your food, although I did. Honestly, they're, for the most part, in most areas, they're oversized raccoons, to be honest. I mean, they'll run from you. Every bear that I saw, it was in the act of running from me by the time I even saw it. So the animals aren't so dangerous. Actually, being on the trail, you're probably the safest you're going to be. Safer than in a big city, or just out there with just a couple of people that you've gotten to know and trust, and
Safer than Chicago.
Absolutely. I would much rather be in the woods than in Chicago.
Now you said two things. You're sleeping and you're eating. How much gear did you have to take?
I had about 17 or 18 pounds of gear. And that includes everything but the perishables, the water, the food, and fuel. And that included a shelter, a tent, sleeping bag, my clothes, my pack, my cooking equipment. That was basically, honestly, that's all that you really need.
17 pounds. Now, I do a lot of camping.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do a lot of tent camping. 17 pounds wouldn't get me started.
I know.
We're not talking about the big elaborate tents. What kind of tent were we talking about?
It was extremely ultralight tent, and you're talking 2 to 3 pounds at most for the shelter itself. Another pound or two for the sleeping bag, a 2-pound pack, and those are your biggest weight. That's what you need to consider the most when you're planning a through hike. But yeah, it's a totally different mindset when you're through hiking versus even backpacking or just going out on a camping trip. It's a totally different sport. People that say that they have backpacking experience, that's great. That'll definitely get you started. But as far as gear is concerned, you have to completely change your mindset. You're not going to be carrying these luxury items like a camp chair, and honestly, extra pairs of extra shirt. You're not even going to be carrying stuff like that.
Now wait a minute. You said extra shirt, so I take it you only had like one change of clothes with you?
I had one change of clothes, and this.
No wonder the bears didn't mess with you.
not many people or things did. You're just not really carrying that much. It's a totally different sport. It's different than anything outdoor related.
Now you said people. How many? Did you see a lot of people doing the trail, or did you meet a lot of people?
Oh yeah. It's a very, very popular trail, and the popularity of the trail has done nothing but go up in the past decade alone. I think over 3,000 people attempted the trail this year, and about a quarter of them made it the entire way, a little less than a quarter. But I was meeting new people continuously throughout the whole trail, all the way into Maine, which I didn't expect. I thought that eventually you would know pretty much everybody, but it wasn't the case. There were so many people doing different schedules that there was a steadily meeting people the entire time.
Yeah, if I would have done the trail, I would have started in Georgia and maybe walked a mile and got in a car and went up a few hundred miles.
You wouldn't have been alone. There was quite a bit of that going on.
Now you did. It took you a little over 6 months to go over well over 2,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
How many pairs of shoes did you go through?
Actually, only one.
Wow.
I was alone in that regard. Most people stick with a lightweight trail runner, just a lightweight. It looks kind of like a tennis shoe with a buffed up sole. But I was one of the few people that carried a heavy-duty one-piece leather hiking boot. And then there are pros and cons to every decision you make on the trail, especially with gear. But I was really impressed with the shoe. It held up the entire trip. It might not should have, because they were pretty worn out by the time I got to Kentucky.
So you got your money's worth out of it.
I definitely got my money's worth. There were many holes, but I limped them there, and I saved some money. So.
Now, you mentioned food. What did you do about food? Were there places to stop, or I guess there's no McDonald's on the Appalachian Trail?
Well, yeah, you'd be surprised. Every 3-4 days, we would come to a road crossing. It'd be maybe 50, 60 miles, sometimes as few as 30 miles if I was feeling lazy.
Lazy going, went over 2,000 miles feeling lazy. Okay, yeah, now.
You'd be surprised how lazy thru hikers are, honestly. It's hard to get us to do anything. It's funny to say that, but every 3 or 4 days, you'd come to a road crossing, and we carried with us a guidebook. It was like the Appalachian Trail guidebook made by David A. Wall Miller. And it would give you distances to key locations, like, you know, distance to the next campsite, to the next water source. And one of those things was distance to the next town. So you'd come to this town and say 4 miles to Pawling, New York, west. And so I would stick out my thumb, and I would thumb a ride, and I would get a ride into town, and I would make sure that there was a grocery store there, maybe a laundromat. And I would go in and I would resupply. I might go grab a cheeseburger at the McDonald's, or, you know, a little restaurant, because I like to check out the local places, see what they're eating in New York or what they're eating in Pennsylvania and stuff. So that was part of the attraction of even going on the trail at all. Was I'm hiking across the country. I might as well make the most of it. I might as well go and see these little towns. I've never even heard of Pawling, New York before. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so every 3 or 4 days I would go in and pick up my resupply at a grocery store and get a hitch back out to the trail.
So not only did you walk over 2,000 miles on a trail that's dangerous with snakes, other animals,
It's not that bad.
but you hitched a ride, which to me that is probably the biggest danger of them all. No, I mean, I'm sorry, Mike, I probably would have argued to let my son go on this thing. Of course, Kent's 23 years old. He can do what he wants, but wow. Look, Kent, we're going to take a short break. 12 minutes have gone super fast, but when we come back, I want to get more into the trail and what you saw, some of the towns you went through, and you got some pictures to show us, so we'll show those to the viewers. So we'll be back with more City Week, so stay tuned. Welcome back to City Week. Joining me is Kent Criddle. We've been talking about the Appalachian Trail. Over 6 months, well over 2,000 miles, 17 to 18 pounds of gear. That wouldn't even get me started for a weekend. Kent, you brought some pictures we're going to be showing to the viewers. Talk about some of the things that you saw on the trail. Some of these pictures I saw on your blog. And if you want the viewers to go to your blog, please tell them
Absolutely.
that address. But just beautiful pictures, beautiful pictures.
Oh man, I got to see the United States from an angle that not many people get to see. I got to see the behind the scenes. I got to see stuff that I didn't know existed anymore. I thought it was completely wiped away. I mean, beautiful mountain vistas, beautiful waterfalls, beautiful valley overlooks. I got to see foxes and bears and porcupines and groundhogs. I got to see, you know, scarlet tanagers and birds that I've never seen before. I got to see towns that I never knew existed, which is the thing about the trail that people don't expect, that it's more like a cross-country road trip than a hiking trip. I mean, I got to go into Asheville, North Carolina. I got to go into Washington, D.C. I got to go into New York City. I got to go into Boston. I got to go into Duncannon, Pennsylvania, and Hot Springs, North Carolina. And I got to see these people and experience local culture. It was just, I got to see it all. I got to see the United States from, like I said, like from an angle that not many people get to see. I got to be a tourist in non-touristy destinations. And that was probably one of the coolest things about the trip.
Now, let's talk about the trip as far as the good and the bad, because I know there's pros and cons about everything.
Oh yeah.
Let's start with the good. And you mentioned some of it. You hit on some of it just then. The places you got to see, the cultures you got to meet, the foods you got to sample. But out of all that, what do you feel was your best experience on the trail?
Man, Man, oh man, that's a tough one. Specifically, like one moment?
Yeah, let's take one moment.
Okay.
I'm putting you on the spot.
All right. I'm ready. It's funny because I kind of have to segue into the story. I was having a really bad day, one of the worst days ever. And I know this sounds funny, but stick with me. I was in New Jersey, and it was during a heat wave. It was about 100 degrees, and for some reason, I felt like I wasn't doing enough miles, so I was pushing big miles, and I was really pushing myself, getting up early, hiking late, doing 20 miles a day or more. And eventually, the heat got down. I was like, I'm from Georgia, this heat's nothing on me. I got this. All the people from the north are complaining and crying. I'm like, nah, this is my element. About day 3 or 4 of this, I literally got heat exhaustion. I got heat rash all over my body from wearing my pack, and I was so dehydrated. And then I was trudging up this mountain, and I get stung by a wasp right on the shoulder, and it's just kick me while I'm down. Like, oh my God, what is going on? And then later in camp, I'm setting up my tent, and I've got my boots off, and I've got my sandals on, and it's kind of late. Like I said, I was hiking late, and I kick a rock, and I cut the end of my toe open. I'm just bleeding everywhere, and the gnats are attacking my face, and I've had it with the trail. I tell you, I was like this close from just like, you know what, this is enough. I have hiked like 1,500 miles. I was in New York. I've hiked 1,500 miles. I'm had enough of this. This is it. And the next morning, I just go to sleep. I don't even think I eat dinner. I go to sleep, and I wake up the next morning, and I check my phone. I actually got service. I actually had service quite a bit. And I had a text from one of my friends that I met a couple of weeks before, and she goes, "Hey, one of my friends from New York is picking me up, and she's taking me to New York City. Do you want to go?" What? Yes, of course. I immediately texted her back. I was like, yes, of course I'll go to New York City. Where should we meet? And so we picked this place like 5 miles. I got to hike like 5 miles to the next road crossing. I run those 5 miles. Like, I tell you, I've never hiked so fast in my life. I did those 5 miles in like an hour and a half. It was unbelievable. I'm getting there, and I'm waiting on the road, and she comes and picks me up. And I tell you what, we went into New York City for 3 days, and I had the time of my life. I got to go to a Braves-Mets game. The Braves were actually in town. It was the best timing in the world. The Braves were actually in town. I got to go to the Braves-Mets game. Jason Hayward caught a diving catch in the top of the 9th inning to save the game. It was the bottom of the ninth. It was the bottom of the ninth because we were in New York. It was the bottom of the ninth, diving catch in center field to save the game. It was just the coolest night. I got to go into Chinatown and Little Italy. I got to go see the new World Trade Center. I got to see the Statue of Liberty. And all this stuff happened immediately after one of the worst days I had on trail. And that I think that like the contrast is what makes all of it so awesome. And also the spontaneity of the trail. I had no idea. You have no idea what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, you have no idea. When you wake up that morning, you have no idea where you're going to be that night. And that is so cool, and it's so different than anything I've ever done before.
So the trail is kind of like real life supposed to be.
A little bit, yeah. And I think everyone should go and experience something like that.
Wait a minute, I'm not. I'm sorry.
Maybe not quite like what
maybe
I did.
A week. Maybe I could do a week.
I hear you. But
so that was your best. You started out with your worst, and that was going to be my next question. What was your worst experience? But that sounded pretty doggone bad.
For all the awesome things that I got from the trail, all the good times and all the memories and all the life-changing moments and events, there was equally as many bad times. And I mean, for every one of those good times, you earn it. I mean, you really do. You put in the work to earn the good memories. And there are a lot of hard times walking through 2 feet of snow in North Carolina and 15-degree weather, and it's so cold that your water bottles are freezing, and you have to like continuously shake them or break the ice just to get a drink of water. You're dealing with 35-mile-an-hour winds and sideways rain on a 5,000-foot ridge in Tennessee. You're dealing with 100-degree temperatures and 100% humidity in Pennsylvania. You're dealing with, you're always tired. You're always sore. It's hard to get up in the morning sometimes.
What kept you from just two questions. What kept you from just getting sick as a dog? And there's just, I give up. I quit.
You know, just like I said with the New York thing, for every bad thing that happened on the trail, something good happened almost immediately after. It was like the trail was playing a give and take with me. It's like the trail giveth, and the trail taketh away. And like we always, there was a saying on the trails, like the trail provides. And it provides a reason for you to stay. Because, you know, all those hard times that I had just as many awesome times. Meeting some of the coolest people I've ever met in my life. People from California, Germany, Australia, Ohio, Michigan. I have some of my best friends from Arizona, and I got to experience the world through them. I got to meet these world travelers and these people. Like one of my really good friends was a 70-year-old German photographer. His trail name was Red Specs. And
how old was he?
He was 70 years old.
Wow.
He lived on the wrong side of the Berlin Wall. And I got to experience what it was like to live in communist Germany. And I got to hike with him for several hundred miles. Unfortunately, he had to get off because of a knee injury in New York. But so those are the kind of things that keep you going, and the friendships that you make along the way. Because I made some really good friends that I'm going to keep for the rest of my life.
I imagine so, seeing the good and the bad.
Yep. And I think that's one of the biggest draws of the trail, is that it's the social trail. Right. There's so many people doing it, and you create these little, we call them trail families, and they're the ones that keep you going. I mean, on a hard day, you know, they're like, you know, come on, don't leave me out here. You know, you stick with me. Things will turn around, and you don't want to leave them. And
right.
You know, once you get that connection, it's hard to go.
So, just talking with you.
Mm-hmm.
You did this as soon as you graduated from Georgia Tech.
Yes.
And congratulations on that. Civil engineering.
Yep.
I understand you have jobs and job offers waiting for you.
Okay.
So, you know, but to do this at your age, it sounds like you just really grew up a lot. What did you take away from this? What did you accomplish by doing this?
If people ask me sometimes, because it's hard to sit down and talk about that place trail, because it's just so huge, it's just so immense. Sometimes I don't even know where to start. I just would rather say nothing at all, you know. But if I had to sum it up in one word, I think it would be life changing. I realized that life can be very, very simple and still very happy, and that comfort and happiness are not the same thing. They're not synonymous. And people, I don't want to call anyone out or anything, but people think that their luxurious house and their luxurious car and being super comfortable all the time is going to make them happy. I have never been so uncomfortable for 6 months of my entire life. I lived outside. Every time it was raining, every time it was snowing, every time it was windy, I was in it. I didn't get to leave, but I've never been happier. I've never been happier. And it's the very simple things that make people happy. And I think I'm really lucky to have figured that out at such a young age. I don't need the big car. I don't need the big house. I had 18 pounds of possessions, and that's all I had to my name for 6 months, and I've never been happier. And I think that's really cool. And
so, Mike, don't buy him a car, or don't give me any more money, or
Well, I'm not saying that.
Well, Kent, look, it's been great talking with you. Why don't you tell the viewers, if you don't mind sharing the blog that they can go to, and actually, can they actually log into it and look at some of the pictures? Tell the viewers how they can find it.
I believe it's withthewind2013.blogspot.com. And if you search With the Wind, Breeze, that's my trail name, it should come up on a Google search.
Well, I told your dad several times, and I'll tell you this, I really feel sorry for anybody that has to work for you in the future. When they come to you with an excuse of why they couldn't get this or why they couldn't do that, and you're just sitting back saying, buddy, I did Appalachian Trail. I was 6 months out in the elements, over 2,000 miles. Your excuse don't hold nothing. Yeah, there you go, find a way. Well, Kent, it's been awesome sitting here talking with you. Man, this 30 minutes has just gone by fast. I could talk to you a lot more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We talk for hours.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I imagine the stories you got to tell you. You got to write a book. You got to write a book.
Yeah, I've been told that a few times, and people seem to have enjoyed the blog. So we'll see what happens.
There you go.
I'm not ruling it out.
There you go. Well, Kent, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more City Week in just a moment.
If you're looking for dependability, the City of LaGrange service on sanitation are just flawless. Can't ask for anything better. It's 5 minutes of not being able to throw away trash can lead to a lot of buildup. And the solution to make sure that didn't happen was basically keeping a spare container on site, so that eliminates the downtime to probably maybe a minute. You know, in our business, it's no excuses. We have to be able to get this in and out no matter what the situation is. And the City of LaGrange has been a great partner to help us accomplish that.
Welcome back to City Week. We've enjoyed our conversation today with Kent Criddle. Kent has inspired me, and I hope he has inspired the viewers out there, that it doesn't take a lot in life to be happy. And walking over 2,000 miles in 6 months on the Appalachian Trail with only 17 pounds of gear, possessions is not everything. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we ask you to come back for more City Week.